Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston. Join Dr. Pinkston today as she teaches you how an integrative approach to health, combining holistic and contemporary medical information, can lead you to the better life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston.
Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston, and this is The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I am bringing you some information, health-related, more integrative and functional health-related, trying to tie up some loose ends that maybe your doctor isn't working with you on that you're interested in. Many times I have a registered dietitian here and a clinical nutritionist. Laura, always correct me if I'm wrong about your qualifications, because you are the top qualifications of nutrition and diet. And this is Laura LaValle. You've been on before, and I welcome you back. We are talking about a alkaline diet, which is something people ask me about quite often, but really don't understand. So we're going to talk about that and all the myths today. Welcome back. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. And I'm glad to be back.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. So, let's jump right in, because this is a hot topic right now, and something I'm very interested in, because I think I have a problem with this, honestly. So I guess the best thing to do is describe what is alkalinity, what is acidity, kind of how it works in the body and the importance of it.
Yes. So a lot of people, I think, can relate to acidity and alkalinity a little bit, especially if they have a pool or a hot tub. So anybody who ever took chemistry, you learn that, neutral pH, it has to do with pH of things. So that's potential how much hydrogen.
Right.
That's what that stands for. So a neutral pH is a 7. And everything that's liquid pretty much has pH.
Right.
So when you go down under 7 into the 6.9 and down, it's considered acidic liquid. Mm-hmm. If it goes up above the 7, it's considered alkaline. Well, as it turns out, different, like the surface of our skin is supposed to be kind of a neutral pH. Yes. So even the body has some pH, and you don't think of your skin as, but there is moisture in your skin, so that's how you get a pH. It has to be, water in there. Well, our blood has a pH, and it's supposed to be held at a certain constant. And any doctor knows that, too high or too low can be fatal, right? Our body has to preserve this certain pH in the blood.
Yes.
Well, it has to get really extreme before it might become fatal. And in the meantime, there can be all sorts of health problems from being too high or too low. But the real bigger problem, it's very rare for people to become too alkaline, although certain things can cause it. But it's really common for people to become too acidic in their blood.
Correct.
But the pH of blood is not neutral. The pH of blood, ideal pH of blood, is supposed to be 7.3 to 7.45, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's slightly alkaline. So that's where we're optimal. And so, this is interesting to me because I've been a dietitian. I started school for dietetics in 1990. Mm-hmm. And I graduated in 94, started, 94, 95. And when I went back to school in my 20s, in my late 20s, I went back for dietetics. So I had a different thing starting out. Anyway, I was really super interested in nutrition.
Yes.
Because I had hypoglycemia. And reactive hypoglycemia back in the day, they didn't even have a test for it.
Correct.
So when I went to my doctor about my shaky and sweaty and all that, he just thought I must be anxious, But and then it took a person that sold Shackley,
right,
tell me about, oh no, that's hypoglycemia, and that happens. You shouldn't eat sugar because you're going to keep creating the problem. You should eat protein.
Right.
Try Shackley protein bars. And that started my whole journey with nutrition. Well, why did I go into it? Because back then, as I started reading and, just devouring everything to do with nutrition, this acid diet, alkaline diet concept was even way back then.
Absolutely.
When I decided to go back to school for dietetics, all these things, I was curious, like what was the real story? What was true?
Yeah.
The alkaline diet, I was so shocked I was going to look for my textbook because it had information about alkaline diet in my one main textbook.
Yes.
It was like, holy crap.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that seemed, like pseudoscience to me, like too weird,
Yeah, like to most. I think many doctors feel that way, right? So,
but it's a real deal.
Yes,
Now, what you will see that is misleading.
Yes.
Let's just do one of the big myths. If we had an audience full of people and we said, okay, what is an acid producing food? If you've read anything about this, what's the first thing that people will say? Do you know what it is?
Probably caffeine. I think caffeine is one of those things.
Most people say meats, animal protein.
Oh, yeah, true. Mm-hmm.
I even did an AI, like a search this morning, and that's the number one, animal proteins.
Yeah.
Animal proteins are slightly acid producing, but there's another whole food category that's worse. But let's go off of that. We'll get into those particulars in a minute, because what I want to talk about is, what are some of the problems that can occur if you're too acidic?
Yes.
So the main one is it causes osteoporosis.
Yes.
So that's, this is always something that's a little hard to talk to a young person about, because that doesn't
happens so far away down the road, right?
Far down the road. So why do I care about it? But
right.
Sometimes I find young women will, if they saw grandparents suffer problems, from osteoporosis. But it's coming for all of us as we age, and the best thing to do is prevent it. But in the meantime, there are other symptoms. So one of the big symptoms, believe it or not, if people have hiccups, that can be from, chronic, like problems with hiccups, that can be from being too acidic.
Wow.
You're developing different types of acids in the body. Yeah. Some of them are carbon dioxide based.
Yeah, makes
carbon
sense.
dioxide you have to breathe out. And if you're creating carbonic acids in your blood,
there you go.
You're creating too much acidity. Yep. The hiccup is the attempt to get in more oxygen.
Yep.
So,
but yawning. Does yawning do that? Because I see people talk about yawning all the time.
Yawning too often. Yeah. But low energy, and actually feeling acidic with your saliva. Mm-hmm. You can feel like, it might make your lips feel sore.
Right.
Sometimes people will become a little more, go in and out of feeling more acidic, and they'll get that issue. Mm. If you have any problem, or it's in your family, problems with kidney stones. Yeah. Because what happens with these metabolic, so what this is a diet related, your diet is causing your body to create too many metabolic acids. Yeah. And the acids are, excuse me, I'm going to cough. Things like phosphoric acid, sulfuric acid, lactic acid is the big one.
Yep.
We only think of lactic acid, like when we're exercising.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down, I want to see if I'm forgetting one. Our keto acids.
Keto acids, right.
Mm-hmm. Keto diets, creating ketogenic,
yes,
beta hydroxybutyrate and others, butyric acid, not butyric. So anyway, those metabolic acids, how your body gets rid of them is through the kidneys. Mm-hmm. So when your blood is filtering through the kidneys and you have all these acids, what it tends to do is cause your any minerals that are in the blood to get pulled out. They call it precipitating them, and that's what creates the stone.
Yes.
So one of the big things that if you look up, how can you try to help if you have a problem with kidney stones, is get more magnesium in particular. Mm-hmm. Low intake is associated with having
Right.
kidney stones.
Right.
Another problem that starts like what really coming on with a vengeance at age 30 is sarcopenia, loss of blood.
Yeah.
That's another thing that being acidic causes.
Big one.
If it's, and now you were sharing with me a guest you're going to have on that talks about being acidic and how it can create even like mood issues, feeling agitated. So it's a big deal. And just turning pH around can make you feel so much better. And you can, what we have people do is there's the strips that you can get pH. They come in a roll. Looks like you're pull off
Amazon. Just right on Amazon. Look at the pH strips.
Is the company name. Don't stick it in your mouth. You don't want those chemicals. What you do is you get a plastic spoon and spit onto the plastic spoon. Put that in. You dip the strip in.
Okay.
Also hold it in a urine stream.
Okay.
So you have to look up online because I don't have it memorized, but they're different than your blood.
Right.
You're not gonna. So you're getting an indication of what your acidity or alkalinity is like based on your saliva.
Right. What is the company again?
Hydrion. Hydrion.
I know people want to know. Yes.
So you're getting an indication from your other body fluids. If they are also acidic, then your blood is acidic.
Right.
So that's the way you can measure it. And we actually try to keep strips right in the office so we can have people check it right there.
Amazing.
Because believe me, when you see, holy smokes, you're down like in the 6s. And you know how you hear people, cancer is caused by acidity. That's not actually, it's not a causation type thing, but cancer, people with cancer do become acidic.
Yes.
Because those cancer cells are also creating a lot of these acids as they, consume the nutrient, the carbs in particular.
Right.
So if meat is only slightly acid forming, then what is the biggest problem? So there was a study that found years and years ago, and these same researchers have continued to research alkaline diets. And what they did is they compared the alkalinity or acidity of human blood now to what it was back in Paleolithic times. And they calculated it based on the diet.
Yeah.
And what they found back in Paleolithic times is that not only were Paleolithic humans not acidic, they were much more, their diets were alkaline forming. That's what you want.
Right.
Their diets were, in terms of producing acidity, the numbers were -78 to -23. They rarely they didn't become acidic.
Right.
Modern man, we're +48 and +132.
Wow.
Our diets are very pro-acid forming.
Absolutely.
So in comparing those, what they ate then and what humans eat now, what was the big difference? It wasn't the animal protein. The big difference was the introduction of grains.
Yes.
Very high calorie foods.
Yes.
And it doesn't go along well with modern lifestyle because we don't burn the calories off well.
Right.
We take all that glucose that comes from grains and burn it up because it's too inactive. So it's a real bad combo to have these high, what they call energy dense, nutrient poor foods.
Yes.
Because it's not only that we're eating grains, we're eating mostly refined grains.
Right.
And sugars. So the most acid producing foods are grains and sugars.
Well, there you go. Another mark against them right there.
It's like a broken record, and you think eventually people would get to hearing this,
Yes. And need to.
I mean, it just is what it is. So we really have to watch our intake of these high energy foods. And so that's what I've always promoted, because way back in my early days, even back working in hospitals, you started to see this trend that the same diet that was good for people with diabetes was good for people with,
Right. Correct.
The only condition that was a little different was if people had COPD,
Right.
pulmonary. So if you've ever, it sort of reminds you of emphysema. It's physiologically a little different, but people have trouble breathing, very difficult breathing, and especially with exertion. And the diet for that, we had to go high fat on their calories and low carb.
Yeah.
So this fits in with this topic because why? Because what are you creating in your body that you can't breathe out when you eat carbs?
The CO2. Yep.
You can't get that out.
Yep.
Builds up and you become acidic.
Yes. Yes.
So, so there's our big myth busting. So how do you alkalinize yourself? If I'm not going to eat grains, meats and animal proteins are somewhat acid forming. Go to the rest of the plant kingdom for your foods. And it's in particular vegetables. Fruits are alkaline producing, but vegetables are the most alkaline producing.
Of course.
Because they're low calorie and nutrient dense. And the primary nutrients that alkalinize you are the minerals. So it's magnesium, potassium, and all your other calcium and all your other trace minerals.
Absolutely.
So you're looking at, not just leafy greens, but, root vegetables in the studies that I was telling you about. They specifically cited things like root vegetables, tubers.
Yes.
Beans and legumes are good. They're nutrient dense. They have good mineral content. They're a little higher calorie, but they're not as high calorie as grains. And super nutrient dense and super good sources of minerals.
Almost sounds a little Mediterranean-like as well.
And nuts and seeds are your best source of magnesium. All fruits and vegetables are great sources of potassium.
Yes.
All fruits and vegetables. Potatoes are really high in potassium.
Potatoes, bananas, cantaloupe. Those
peppers,
right.
Like bell peppers, super high in vitamin C and potassium.
Nice.
Vitamin C is also important. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about that if we catch up to it in a minute. But you want these plant sources of all these minerals. Calcium is a hard one because the acids that get produced, lactic acid, phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid comes from high phosphorus foods, which is dairy. Cow's milk dairy foods are very high in phosphorus.
Yeah.
And when you overdo phosphorus, it causes your body to pull calcium from your bones.
Right.
When phosphorus is high in your blood, it has to be in balance with calcium. So that's where there was a big myth and still goes on that the best way to prevent osteoporosis is to drink milk and eat yogurt and things. And it's really not the best way. The best way is to make sure that you stay alkaline.
Absolutely.
That's super important.
So all of these things that the food industry do, and don't always bash the food industry, but it's easy to from time to time. Because of some of the standards, and that is the bashing of meat and animal proteins and animal fats, and the bashing, not the bashing, but the encouragement of, of milk and dairy and things like that. Not that, there's some things about it, but exactly. There's a medium, moderation.
You don't have a food allergy or food sensitivity to it.
Absolutely.
Can have some, but you don't want to overdo it.
Absolutely.
Gotta watch. If you look at European, like eating patterns in some of the the countries in the Netherlands, in that area, Finland, Denmark, those are real kind of heavy dairy eating countries. So is France. They also eat a lot of plant food.
Right.
In fact, that's one of my favorite I can't think of the name. It's a person that I follow on X. It's a woman from one of those countries like Norway, Sweden, and puts out these plates of these beautiful foods that she feeds her family.
Yeah.
And it would be things like a little bit of fish, like some salmon or some beans, some kind of a fish, tons of vegetables, avocado, and maybe a little bit of cheese.
Right.
You know? So it's not cheese and meat, and then a little bit of celery or carrots.
Like here, when people do like the keto diets, you know, and just heavy cheese and heavy meat, and it's like, no, that's not what we intended. So yeah. And,
but it's very filling and very satisfying. And if you use your little strip to show you how to get, you know, this dialed in, it really is motivating. And, you know, a lot of people have problems with eating a lot of vegetables. So what will they want to do? They'll want to go get a drink, you know, like a fruit and vegetable smoothie.
Yeah.
The problem with those smoothies is a lot of the companies do put sugar in them, and they're always fruit heavy.
Yes.
You know, so I love home juicing.
Yeah.
We'll put in carrots, celery, beets, spinach, you know, other leafy greens. Delicious when we just put in a little bit of fruit, like maybe an apple. You know.
Yeah. I've always seen that if people do this, and I explain this to people, that, you know, when at
no sugar.
Even when we are go to the gym and they advertise here, you know, the different smoothies and all this health benefits, and you know, they're 700 calories for one drink, and you know, 80 to 120 grams of carb. And I'm glad
at least it's nutrient dense as far as the vitamins and minerals. So
but
that
you have like
you're still overwhelming your body with way too many.
Well, you think about a serving size, you know, like a small orange or one small apple, or, you know, a few strawberries. But when you put stuff in a smoothie, sometimes you put like 3 apples and 2 bananas and 10 strawberries, and, you know, and the serving size is larger than what you should be getting. So you have to think in proportions.
Plus, then you're eliminating the fiber. And you want that fiber. So
very important.
Yeah.
For absorption.
So that's okay if you're drinking a healthy version of a vegetable drink.
Correct.
It will be primarily vegetables.
Yes.
With a little bit of fruit.
Right. And keep the pulp as much as you can. I know it's kind of texture, you know, people have difficulty with that, but keep as much of the pulp as you can.
They're okay. Yeah, that's it. The biggest problem with them is you don't have the fiber and all of that. So it's not even something that you should really think about using as a strategy for this. You just need to eat the vegetables.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is the powders, like the green drink powder.
Greens and
and you know, a lot of people feel really good adding those into their diet, but when it comes to, you know, being enough to get us into the alkaline range, again, and we're just going on what we see with patients that come in, and when we test their pH, and then they did their green drinks and everything, it'll raise it a little bit, but not like just eating vegetables.
Right. Well, like anything, you add it. It's a supplement. It's not, you know, people try to add it as their main way of getting vegetables because they don't eat enough.
And then just measure it yourself and see if it's doing the job. If it seems to be helping, great. But, you know, in our experience, it's not going to be the big thing.
Absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was the fact that the acidity that forms, the primary metabolic acid that forms in the body with the typical American diet is lactic acid.
Correct.
And if people exercise and get sore, that's where they think of lactic acid, right?
Yes.
You exercised and you feel sore, you can use vitamin C and things to get that lactic acid out of your system. People don't think about, I didn't even think about lactic acid as a primary metabolic acid that forms from overeating in general, high calorie diets.
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting though, it is mainly carbs because fats are neutral.
Yeah.
You won't see a lot of fats on the acid alkaline charts because
Yes.
oils from whatever, nuts and seeds, avocado is alkaline forming. Avocado is actually a good source of calcium.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for non-dairy sources of calcium, you're looking at the best are, and this is a hard one for a lot of Americans, sardines.
Oh, yeah.
Bones right in there. They just don't even feel them. They just crunch up really easy. Those bones are a great source of calcium.
Yeah.
And believe me, I was raised in the Midwest. I was not a big fish, we didn't have fish.
That's right. We didn't.
Same.
Exactly.
Fried it up, breaded
it. Same.
But that was it for fish for us, and seafood, stronger fish. Like I had to learn to eat it, because you need it for the anti-inflammatory omega-3s.
Yes.
The first time I tried, here's how, if you think, no way, I'd never be able to eat a sardine, put it on a healthy, high fiber cracker. I do get mainly like seed-based crackers.
Yeah.
Put some mustard on there. Mustard's fine. And then put some sardine. Not too bad. You have to kind of get it past the nose the first time, but actually it's pretty tasty. I'm going to challenge sardines.
Like with me and oysters or something, you just put it in and just swallow. Just get it.
I'm relating to anybody that has problems with that.
Sure.
I have problems with that.
I as well. Yes.
And and the other thing is you always have to try things when you get older.
Sure.
You can't go on how it was. No, most kids don't love broccoli. You'll have an exception.
Right.
Right. I didn't like those things when I was little, but you have to retry them again as you get older.
You do. Absolutely.
Put a little bit of butter on your vegetables to flavor it. That helps.
Sure. Should spray.
Yeah. Either real butter, or if you want to do a plant-based, like the Mykonos brand has really good plant-based butter alternatives. They're very, very good. They taste great.
Yeah.
So speaking of the plant-based, and any questions or anything else that's come to your mind?
Well, only that we probably need to take a short break. I have a sponsor, so I'm going to take a short break, but I want to make sure that we provide some information. So first of all, where can people find you? I know you were involved with the PD Labs and the LaValle Performance Health Center there in Austin.
Yes.
And you have the Metabolic Code with Jim LaValle and your husband.
My Facebook page is my main social media, Laura LaValle, nutritionist. I've been a little slow on there because we just moved like you.
All right.
But, in fact, maybe this will motivate me. Maybe I'll put a blurb on there about acid. I've talked about alkalinity before on there, briefly here and there, but not a lot.
Right.
So I'll mention it because it does amaze me that this is a topic of interest to people that, after all these years, even way back when I was younger,
Yeah. It's been around a long time and still just riding under the radar, especially in the men's department. So, and you can find it. And Laura and I have had some great discussions on fasting and fasting mimicking and, protein diets and vegan and everything. So you can go back and find a lot of our shows at drpbetterlife.com and pick those up and watch. We've been doing this for 3 years, Laura. I can't believe it. So, yeah, it's great, isn't it? So we're going to take a very short break. We'll be right back because I do have some questions about like alkaline water and things that people are buying over the counter. So we'll talk about those when we get back in a moment.
Great.
Depression, anxiety, low energy, weakness, these are just some symptoms of low B12 levels. And the absorbable B12 folate supplement that's helping people declare victory over depression symptoms is De Novo Plus B12 by Magna Pharmaceuticals. Patients with symptoms of depression often exhibit low levels of folate and vitamin B12. The human body needs sufficient folate intake to produce the essential neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters alleviate feelings of sadness anxiety, and gloom. What makes De Novo Plus B12 so successful? De Novo Plus B12 contains readily absorbable folate and B12. That means it's more successful at correcting the root cause of your deficiency, not just the symptoms. Whether you are suffering with low energy, depression, fatigue, or anxiety, you owe it to yourself to learn more at magnaweb.com. That's magnaweb.com. Please let us know at checkout that you heard about De Novo Plus B12 on The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.
Excuse me, I was trying to get that cough done before we got back. So been kind of sick this last week. I missed it there. But good. Well, welcome back. And we are talking about alkalinity and acidity, and especially where diets are concerned. Great topic. So I think before we cut out, I was going to ask you a little bit. People will buy a lot of alkaline correcting things like waters and use some products like that. What about that?
Okay, alkaline waters. You may get a little bit of mineral in from alkaline waters. However, one of the things to not do with alkaline waters is never drink them with a meal. One of the problems, because the main thing that the minerals don't go through and get into your bloodstream very efficiently. There's not quite enough of them. There's enough in there to make that pH of that water go up, but it's not really quite enough to really have a strong alkalinizing effect on the body. And here's a problem. So your stomach acids are just that, acid, very acidic, down in the twos.
Yes.
Very, very low. Like if you took stuff, that's why it burns your throat so bad when you have reflux and it comes up. It's extremely acidic.
Yes.
You need that acidity to properly digest your foods. You need it. So your grains and, some of the carbohydrate foods will still break down at a little bit higher pH, but your animal proteins especially need that real low pH. And if you drink alkaline, so if you take an acidic water and an alkaline water and you dump them in together, if you get them exactly right, you'll eventually get it to just neutral, right?
Yes.
Well, here I am. My stomach is very acidic. It needs to be in order to be able to digest my food. And I'm having a meal. And what am I doing with that alkaline water? I'm neutralizing that acidic pH in the stomach and lowering my ability to digest my foods.
Interesting. Yes, absolutely.
And not good to drink when you're eating at all.
Makes perfect
between meals, maybe not so bad, right?
Yeah.
But especially don't drink them with a meal.
Absolutely. Gosh, that's great. It's something I have never even thought of, but makes perfect common sense. And so a lot of patients ask me about apple cider vinegar. They will use a supplement of sorts as well.
Okay, that's a weird thing because this was something that confused me until I learned what was going on. How can an acidic lemon be an alkaline food?
Right.
It's because of the low calorie and the nutrients that it brings in.
Right.
So it's the same thing with an apple. If you look up the minerals there's some minerals in apples, and when they ferment the apple, it becomes very acidic.
Yes.
It builds up these, and the primary acid in vinegar is called acetic acid. So taking in those acids, it's really what you're after in that apple cider vinegar is the minerals,
right?
Or in terms of alkalinizing you.
Yeah.
Oddly, I have a lot of people that tell me when they drink apple cider vinegar and water, I never recommend just chugging it.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough. Yeah.
On the teeth anyway. Put
Yeah.
some water to get it down.
Yeah.
But it's I do have people that tell me they think they feel better with it, and I don't argue with that. But in terms of huge health impact,
science,
so many other ways to do so much more than you get with that little bit of vinegar. Really, truly.
Absolutely.
again, just eat these fruits and vegetables.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
So frustrating. Because
no, you have to keep going back and just reiterating. You need to eat.
I don't know why that's so hard for people, and I know it is. So I just try to give you motivation because, you know, even my own daughters, because, you know, they thought they were cursed having a dietitian for a mom because I did try to limit the bad stuff and, you know, do a lot of the good stuff. And they're like, they just want McDonald's or whatever, you know, and they're like, you're going to make us be junkies because you don't want to let us have any. I'm like, you know, but I did enough good with having those. For example, I tried to keep fruit and vegetable trays around with good healthy dips for an after school snack.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
And so I did enough encouraging. I snuck my vegetables into meatloaf.
Yeah.
You know, like chop them up. And they cook in there and they get soft and you don't even know they're in there.
Right.
I mean, you have to be real fine.
Yeah.
Put them in chili. I would hide. And Jerry Seinfeld's wife had a whole.
Yes, I was about to bring that up, and I have her book actually about how to hide.
It's a great way to do. Well,
it is.
So now my daughters both say when they go too long with not eating enough, you know, fruits and vegetables, especially vegetables, they feel it.
They do. They should.
They get to where they're craving them and know they need, you know, and that's what happens. You just turn your taste buds around. Do you know that yesterday my son had a party over the weekend? He had friends with their birthday, and it's his birthday coming up. And so the junk food fly, you know, chips and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I ate a Dorito. I haven't eaten a Dorito in so long, and it just tasted terrible.
Yeah.
It didn't even taste good. You know, and I don't think it was the nacho cheese one, but whatever the ranch or whatever it was, it just tasted nasty.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to do. Like when that's to me one of the biggest value of going on some kind of a cleanse where people eat nothing but these kind of foods and they go, oh my gosh, my energy was great. It was amazing. I feel so much better.
Why do you go back? Right?
But you do change your taste.
Yes, you do. Time. Yes, you do.
I mean, like some of the cheap Entenmann's type baked goods, you know, real cheap, whatever, like a iced, you know, roll or cinnamon roll. They taste so chemically now, you know, when you get away from them for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got a great example of that because one of the things that, you know, sweets, that was mine when I was 300 pounds. Sweets were absolutely, you know, would call my name from another room and I'd keep them in my room, you know, eat after hours and people weren't looking because I was so ashamed of it. But, you know, just cravings. Now, you know, 6 to 8 years later, if I eat a sweet potato, I used to put, you know, butter and cinnamon and brown sugar and all those things, marshmallows, just all those things on top of it. I can't do that anymore. Now I just eat the sweet potato without anything on it.
I like it with a little bit of butter and cinnamon still.
I don't
even need it now, but
I don't even need it. And it's so sweet. Yeah, now I just eat it without anything.
The point is how it changes your taste.
Absolutely.
Just getting that habit. So I do have a lot of people that are sweetsaholics like that. And usually that is driven by stress primarily.
Yes, ma'am.
Stress makes us crave that because our body's trying to build the serotonin. So what we do for that, there's a really great dietary supplement ingredient that I'm proud to say Jim had a good friend. My husband is a pharmacist and has a naturopathic degree.
Yes.
And advanced training in clinical nutrition and functional medicine. And he had a very good pharmacist friend who formed this whole company around these two herb plants, you know, that they found that were highly valued in Chinese culture for dialing down stress.
Yes.
Via officinalis and philodendron something. And they got the compounds out of them and they put them together. And the ingredient is called Relora.
Yes.
And you see it everywhere now.
You see it everywhere now.
Our product called Quicalm, and that's the exact reason we have that product in our product line is because people are stressed.
Yes.
And, just telling people to stop and take deep breaths, that's great. But a lot of people I have found are their diaphragms are all locked up. They have all shallow breathing. They can't even do deep breathing.
Right.
They have to get to a chiropractor and get some work done to be able to breathe deep again. And also being highly acidic makes it harder to deep breathe.
Absolutely. And then if you don't deep breathe, you build up carbon dioxide again, which makes you more acidic. So, and Jim is
really and truly, like people say, go do yoga, do all these things. When you're talking to certain people, and you can relate to this, I was a single mom years ago. You don't have a minute for yourself. I didn't have time to go do an hour yoga class or even do a yoga tape in my house. Yeah. Because when I got home from work, I had to help my kids, my daughters with their homework, and we had to go to whatever they had to do for school. People know the drill. Correct. Well, if I can get a dietary supplement blend, ours is holy basil with the Relora.
Yes.
Holy basil is another one that's really good, not only for stress, but for blood sugar.
Right. For sleep, and just if you're getting on a plane or anything where you feel stressed.
I can take a couple of those pills, boom, in a flash. Some people are supporting it, but find a more affordable version,
Yeah.
Get it some way, give up your 2 bags of chips and your 2 candy bars and your sugared up coffee, and you paid for it. Just make it a priority and you paid for it.
Absolutely. Quite calm.
That is the answer to me for so many people because, you're going through life situations like a divorce or financial stress or whatever it is. You're just stressed.
All the above.
That's the best way to me for a lot of people too. Now, if you can get to yoga, you can manage to do your deep breathing. Those are completely free. And if that's helping you really dial down.
Right. Jim likes the box breathing, right? He always advocates the box breathing and something people can look up. And I'll try to.
Breathing was a method of breathing that Navy SEALs used, and especially snipers.
Yeah.
You're in tense situations and you need to get your heart rate down so that you're steady, unfortunately, on the trigger, back in that. But for the average person, it's just to take your heart rate down, and it's extremely effective. So you well studied. You breathe into the count of a slow 4. You hold that breath in for 4. You breathe out for 4 counts. And you hold it out for 4 counts. That's the box.
The box. 4.
Hold out, hold. In, hold out, hold.
Beautiful.
And it is very effective. So I don't want to downplay those, but I just know that some people have such tremendous amount of stress and sometimes just physiologically counteracting it. Yes. And that's why the adaptogenic herbs are so good. If people can find an adaptogen blend that works for them.
Absolutely.
Marianne, I want to circle back real quick for a second. That original study on these researchers that are phenomenal, what they figured out with diet.
Yeah.
If fruits and vegetables are so great at alkalinizing, why are we, and alkalinizing helps us hang on to our lean body mass, our muscle and our bone.
Yes.
Why is it that they're seeing, and this is in studies now, and this took a while for these studies to surface for me.
Uh-huh.
Why is it that we see that vegan and vegetarian, people following vegan and vegetarian diets, it's associated with a significant loss of bone mineral density and mass, both. And I have studies on this.
Yes. So not just a vegan diet. Don't be on just a vegan diet. We're going here.
What is the difference? It's protein. Animal protein.
Yes.
And this is something I guess we could do another whole topic on because these are specific, studies. Animal protein is suited to the human digestion.
Yes.
If you look in the animal kingdoms, we are most similar to dogs digestively.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs eat animal proteins and plants. That's omnivore.
Right.
So we have a very acidic stomach, which is what is very suited for digesting animal proteins. We're not like a cat.
Yeah.
They eat nothing but animal protein.
Right.
They don't eat any plants, So you have to think about the human digestion. So what that means is all those amino acids that are in animal proteins really break down and get ready to be absorbed by our cells in our small intestine.
Right.
Proteins, we don't have the same capability. Why? When you eat plants, what are you eating? You're eating all this fiber. What is fiber? It's different eating plants for us than a gorilla, for example.
Right.
Gorillas have what they call an extremely large hindgut. So it's all the intestine, the small and large. It's even longer than ours. We have, medium to smallish hindgut.
Yeah.
Well, here's your first clue. Fiber is digested by primates, not by humans.
Correct.
Like chimpanzees, gorillas, they take those leaves, they chew them up. First of all, their dentition's stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, their hindgut breaks all that down, and they get calories out of that.
Right. We
don't get calories out of fiber.
Correct.
That's why when you look at a nutrition label, you take the carbs and you subtract the fiber because human bodies can't break it down to get calories out of it.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean? Those cell walls and all that, where a lot of that protein is, our digestion can't get to it. It's in, but we can't digest it. Whereas with animal proteins, we can. So this is borne out in study after study as well. When you take plant protein sources and give them to humans, they measure then the amount of amino acids that got into the blood. And it's always so much higher with the animal.
Absolutely. And we need it to build muscle. Yes.
Way more amino acid. And that's what you need. So why would that matter with bone density? Because people think of their bones as just being a lot of calcium and magnesium and phosphorus in there.
Correct.
It's all matrixed in with a protein. So when you don't have protein, you can't make that matrix for your bone.
Fantastic point. Thank you.
So what the researchers said was taking out all those refined grains and sugars allows a lot more room for the slightly acidic animal proteins that you need.
Right.
Along with all your plant, your other vegetables, roots, tubers, leafy greens, all that.
Absolutely. Well said.
So that's super important, and people need to keep that in mind that even if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you're at risk, even though and what we see in the U.S. especially is I'll see a lot of people that are saying that they're vegetarian. They don't actually eat that many vegetables.
Exactly. They eat a lot of soy and
they eat, grains, really. They eat a lot of pasta.
A lot of grains and
So they just don't always. I probably eat more vegetables than a lot of vegetarians because I always have the policy of half my plate vegetable. And I usually try to have a salad with that. So then the other portions are a little bit of whatever your starchy food is. Yeah. And then your protein.
Absolutely.
The formula, how you can get enough. And also sneaking it in,
Absolutely.
I talked about the food sources of calcium a little bit. I wanted to mention that chia seeds and sesame seeds are also very high plant protein.
You cut out, chia seeds and flax?
Sesame.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So sesame, a lot of people don't like sesame seeds. I find just putting them in with a lot of chicken dishes, chicken with vegetables, even if I sprinkle them in.
Right.
Get your calcium, but leafy greens, spinach in particular is high in calcium.
Yeah.
So you want I eat some cheeses. I don't eat a lot of yogurt. We use all plant-based, yogurt, sour creams because of dairy allergy and sensitivity.
Yeah.
In our house.
Oat milk, almond milk.
So I do those versions of those foods, but I do eat a little bit of goat cheese and sheep smoked cheeses.
Mm-hmm.
They're lower in those allergenic proteins than the cow's milk ones.
Yeah.
That makes some people be able to tolerate them better.
And isn't calcium more really about the vitamin D and vitamin K2 more than just, because I know for a long time that the health industry was all about take your calcium. And I thought, yes,
now we
calcium,
can do it.
but you can't. Yeah, but you're not doing anything with it if you don't have the backup of vitamin D and K2.
Well, yeah. And if you overdo calcium and your body isn't compartmentalizing it properly, instead of going into your bones, it can become plaque in your arteries.
True, and stones.
That's where you need vitamin D and K2. There's K2 and K3, but in particular, your vitamin K gets it to go into your bones like you want it to, out of your other, from becoming like bone spurs or plaque in the artery. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we kind of address that because calcium is very important. Now, a lot of people will add, and we're kind of getting close to the end of time here, but a lot of people will add minerals to their waters. So, magnesium, potassium, calcium, things like that to their waters and things like that.
Another thing, oddly, hydrogen waters are alkalinizing.
Oh.
More alkalinizing than putting the minerals themselves.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Hydrogen.
How it ends up helping those acids to break down, apparently.
Gotcha.
I actually love hydrogen waters. I feel very good on them. I actually feel an energy pickup with them.
Wow. What's the best way to acquire that then?
There's one called Mind Body Matrix, which was the last one that we found at a health food show.
Okay.
And they're in the pouch, like it's got the plastic screw top on top.
Right.
That's the type of container you need, because if you have it in a regular glass, there are people that have pills that you can drop into a glass of water, and you have to drink them pretty quickly to get the benefit from the hydrogen component itself.
Right.
That's those plastic ones that have the little, skinny top that screws on are good because as soon as you take a drink, the little lip thing that opens up and lets the water come out closes back up, and then you screw that on, it holds the hydrogen in.
There you go.
Once you open it up, it wants to get out of there. But
Exactly. Interesting. Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Laura, this has been a fantastic show. I always love when you were on. We get the best information. You're so knowledgeable. I just love you. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll try to put some of these things kind of link tree wise. I want people to know about Qui-Calm because I believe in Qui-Calm very, very much. And then the strips, I'm writing this down for myself. So the pH strips too, so people have access and know where to get that. So yeah. Hopefully I'm not leaving anything else out that is important. Maybe the water too. It's something new for me. But thank you so much. We will have you on again to talk more about this. It's a huge topic, so we will have you on again. But where can people find you?
Facebook, Laura LaValle Nutritionist. It's RDNLD. That's a registered dietitian nutritionist.
Yes.
They've added the N now, and licensed dietitian.
Nice. She's at the top of the food chain there, guys, as far as nutrition is concerned. No pun intended. Right?
Well, plus, honestly, 30 years of experience. And I just came into this with sort of this base level reading that I think it just made such a huge difference. And then when I did go in to get the formal education, I think I could make a lot of sense of a lot of it.
Absolutely.
That background, but
yes,
over the years, and honestly, I'd like to research. I like to keep my head in the studies. Absolutely. And then just combining it with that 30 years of experience, seeing what works, what doesn't, what really makes a big difference for people and what doesn't.
Absolutely. So
the diet thing is important, but
ChatGPT right. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting, but ChatGPT and Google cannot replace somebody with this much, knowledge and experience.
Nope.
It cannot replace Laura LaValle with all
The top researchers themselves said you need to keep that animal protein in there.
That's
or you're going to lose your bone matrix.
That's right. It's so important. So thank you for reiterating that. Actually, we did a show on vegan diets and the benefits of versus, the pros and cons and myths and all of that. So, so please, everybody, go look that up. And you can go to drpbetterlife.com, find our previous shows there, and some with Jim, too. I have Jim LaValle on as well. But, Laura, again, thank you so very, very much. Everybody, have a fantastic week. Thank you.
You've been enjoying The Better Life with Dr. Marianne Pinkston. For more information, go to drpthebetterlife.com. That's drpthebetterlife.com. And listen next week for The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.